Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at building out our landscape, giving a little bit more detail. I know that the title here, actually over here, only says that we're adding grass and trees, but I think I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about adding water as well. So this is the landscape that we have right now. We've added some of our textures hopefully, and we've gotten our model into the scene. We're just missing some of the fine details. So we're going to go ahead and come back in and get started on that. Before I get started, just want to remind you that if you want to get caught up to the point that we're at right now with our scene, then go ahead and visit my YouTube channel, Paul Fritz Animation, to get started and get caught up. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me jump out of this scene here. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the project that we were working on. So I'm going to find that down here in my maps. And landscape 3 was the one I demonstrated yesterday. This is where we left off. And I think what I'm going to do for the water in here, let me speed my camera back up, is right down in this area. This landscape really didn't have kind of a good area for creating a large body of water, but maybe right in here I'll demonstrate putting in sort of like a water system, maybe like a lake. Maybe this is a low area for a lake. So we'll do that. So I'll go ahead and get started with that piece first. Now, what you need to do is you need to first get the plugin. This is a plugin that's recent in Unreal Engine, at least in 4.26, I think it came out. Maybe a little earlier. But anyway, so if we go to our edit, and then we go down here to plugins, what we want to do is we want to look for the water plugin. And it helps to type it in the right spot over here in search. When we do that, you'll see that I've already got it enabled in this demo, so you want to go ahead and click the enabled button, and then down here it'll ask you to restart Unreal Engine. So go ahead and click that and restart Unreal Engine. That'll take a second, and then it'll open back up, and the plugins will also be open as well. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, and once the plugin is installed, you go here to place actors and then search classes, and we can type in water right here. And you'll see that there's quite a few options that come with this. And the one I'm going to play around with right here is, we could add a river in here, but I think I'll show you the basic concepts with the lake. I'm afraid that the river may take me too long to get all of that working. So I'm going to go ahead and select the body of water, a lake, and I'm going to just click on it and drag it and put it here in my scene. And when I put it in there, you'll see that it kind of carves out this whole area. We'll fix that in a second. The other thing that we're noticing is that there's no actual visual water there. And I believe that is because, I'm not sure why it's this way, but I'm going to hit Control Z, undo putting my water in. I believe it's because our landscape is actually at a lower elevation than where the water actually works. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to set this at 0 right here, and actually that put my landscape the wrong direction. So let's go ahead and go back to our world outliner. I'm going to find where the floor is located, hit F to go there. My floor is located all the way up here, the original floor, and it is located, well, it's located at 20, but I don't think that the ground level and the floor are actually at the same. I think that has to do with the highest elevation of the landscape, which is, as you can see, is about where this mountain is right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out a little ways. So I'm going to really crank my camera up a little bit so I can move out just a little bit away from the ground there, and maybe come back down just a little bit so I can kind of get a good elevation view. Hit W on my keyboard, and I'm going to start to drag the landscape up, so that the area where I want my water is going to line up with that floor. I don't know why it does this, but this is the only fix I found for right now for using this type of landscape. And wow, I'm Really having some trouble getting that to line up. Let's see here. That's close right there. We'll see how that works. All right, so now I'm going to go back in, go to my place, my actors, find my lake, and put that in down here. And there we go. Now I've got a body of water. You can see the water here. Now yours is probably going to come in a very light blue. I've already, in this, since this has several landscapes in this, I've already adjusted the color of the water, and I'll show you how to do that and where to do that here in just a second. The first thing I want to do is talk a little bit about the water tool itself. When we go back to our outliner, you'll see that we have the water body, we have a mesh, and then we also have this water brush manager. Now, the other thing I want to do is with the water body lake selected, I'm going to go over here to my different settings, and I'm going to go ahead and adjust the way my blend is working right here. Right here it says alpha blend. I want to hit that or select that and select max. And now my landscape really pops back into the way it originally was. If I move it around, you can see it still adjusts the ground as I pull it up to get it higher so that the water will exist in that location. We just kind of need to fine tune that. And again, I don't have the landscape exactly perfect, but it's close. So I'm going to go ahead and just let it modify the ground just a little bit. The other thing we can do is we can also start to shape it. When it first comes in, we just have these 3 points right here that allow us to select them, and we can move those around. So I click on this one, we can shape it this direction. We can move that also up and down if we need to. There's also these curves. You can select these outer parts of the curve, and you can bend it and adjust it where you want it to go. All right, the other thing we can do is we can right click anywhere on this. We can add an additional spline point, and that allows us to start pulling in and shaping it a little bit better. Grab this one and pull it this way a little bit, something like that, and I can add some more splines in. I found that if, using this, if I push it out into my higher terrain area, it sort of, it will take it and it will blend it right up to the edge. Kind of gives it a nice effect in that area. Can't quite get the angle that I want here. So let's bend out just a little bit. Grab the tool right there. That away. Okay, and then there may need to be some adjustments made, but you can see that we start to get this body of water. The great thing about this plugin is it also has post-processing elements that are created for under the surface as well. It's not just a surface level looking water. If I hit play, and my character is lost somewhere. I guess I need to move her as well, as I only moved I moved her earlier, I guess. So let me go ahead and find my player start. There's my player start, and there's my landscape all the way up there. If you remember last time, I had actually moved my character. So I am going to put her back at the start point for the floor. And now it's close. I need to raise her up just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play. I can jump in, and we can see that there's a nice post-processing element that's done for under the water as well, give you a little bit more realism. All right, so that's kind of the basics for the water to get you started. You can play around with it. I guess I did say I was also going to show you how to adjust the color of the water. The way that I've found to do it is I select the water body here, and then I'll scroll down to the water that I'm using. In this case, it's water material. And this is going to affect all of the different waters that you have. So you may need to go back in and adjust it for every scene that you're going to use. But once I select it, the material will come up. And right down in here under global vector parameter, and then the scattering. What we can do is, first what I do is I went and found a color swatch that had RGB listed on it. That was kind of close to the color that I wanted it to be. And it helps if I open up my web browser. Okay, and we want something like, let me go pull that out of the way for a second. We go ahead and pull in Color. And color. All right, so this website allows you to, Encyclocolorpedia, allows you to kind of pick different colors and swatches, and if you know a color number that you're looking for, you can look it up. Then kind of just run through, find a color that works or in the color range of what you're looking for. And I picked something more in sort of the grayish blue, kind of like a mountain river, mountain water looking color, but I'm just going to select one here, something like just a blue color somewhere. Azure sounds good. When Azure comes up, you'll see that down here, 0, 127, and 255 will give you this nice bright blue, and that number is the RGB number that you would type in right in here. Don't click on this and use the little picker. It will mess everything up really bad. And the same with scattering. You can play around through scattering to get the, once you start changing the color, you're going to have to also adjust the numbers on your scattering to get the way the water looks correctly. You're also going to need to work with your alpha. I think at default this alpha was at, it wasn't at 0. I think it was at something like 15. And you can see once I changed the colors, it became very transparent. So you'll need to adjust the alpha on this one. I found pushing it down to around 1.5 worked pretty well to get this kind of deeper color. And then also you can play around with these numbers here for your scattering, and then your alpha is also going to affect kind of how this outer edge and how gray it looks. So I think I had it somewhere around it was 0.2, I believe. And you can even put it at 0 and get it even darker. So these work pretty well at the decimal level. All right, so that'll get you started with water. If water is something you are curious about how to create in your scene. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and jump on over and put some trees into our scene. I'm going to go ahead and save this water. So we're going to put some trees, and we're also going to put some grass using Quixel Bridge. So the first thing about the trees, go ahead and save what I have here. And then I'm going to go into mode, and actually first I want to show you where I got these from. Oh, nice job. And that is from the Epic. Where is it? So from Epic Games Launcher, Marketplace. And I usually try to use free assets for these lessons, just so that people can more easily replicate what I'm doing without having to pay anything to get them. So up here in the search, I'm just going to go ahead and type in trees, and you'll see that a bunch of tree choices come up, and a lot of them cost money. But over here on the search, in the search filters, there is one for max price of free, and for some, oh, can't seem to, I don't know why I always spell trees with 2 S's when I type. There we go. Now free trees. Let's go ahead and select free. And we don't have a lot of choices that come up, but there are a few, some tropical style trees. There's conifers, and there's also a spruce forest. And then there are, it's like a winter forest pack. You can also download other packs that have trees and things like that in them, and migrate those over if you have to open them up as a project, or you can just open up the project. You can add it to your scene if you want, and then go in and pull out the trees that you want and things like that, trees, brush, foliage. So there's several different ways to get trees inside of the marketplace. I think I went with the spruce forest or the conifer one for this demonstration, so I'll tell you which one it is once I get there. Then the other thing for the grass. So the grass I actually pulled up from Bridge. Okay, and Quixel Bridge has high resolution has high resolution grass and other foliage. They don't have trees. These are scanned images, and from the things I've read about people asking, hey, how come we don't have any trees? It's because trees are very large and very difficult to scan for 3D. So not a lot of trees. Now they do have like trunks and that type of scatter that you can add detail to your forest scene, but a tree itself is not currently available. So I'm going to go ahead and select the 3D plants, and you'll see that they have a bunch of different style foliage and stuff. Here's some aquatic, flowering plants. I use some of the flowering plants in the scene I showed you at the beginning. I also use this grass, I believe, or clumping grass. There's all different style of foliage. If you're making a desert scene, they do have cactus, full-size cactus, so those are scanned, and you could use those as well. So this is a place where you can go to select the different plants you want to use and the different grasses. They even have shrubs, the different ferns and things like that. So the way to use this, if you haven't already set up Quixel, what you can do is you would select an object that you're interested in. So I'm going to jump back over to grass real quick, and you can also select between wild and lawn grass. And I've already downloaded this one, but I'm going to show you the process of how to do this, because this is what I'll demonstrate with. So here's the thatching grass, and with the thatching grass, if you select it, it opens up this little window here. Now there's 2 different ways. You can select this, open up this window, and then down here at the bottom, go into your export settings. And now also in Quixel Bridge, you can come up here, and down at the bottom they have both download and export settings. You can download, or you can adjust your download settings as well before you download it with the little down arrow here. Right now it's set at 4K resolution. This one goes down to 2K resolution. There are some that are all the way up to 8K. So keep that in mind when you're creating your scene. You may sacrifice speed of your computer and the game that you're creating with higher resolution grass and things like that. So be careful, think about it. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a 4K because this is a scene that I'm creating. It's not really going to be part of a major game. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at this, and I'm going to hit download. You can also hover over it. When it's green, hit the little download arrow here, so you don't even have to go into this window. All right, I'm going to download it first, and then we're going to get into setting up your export settings. And since I'd already downloaded it, it's downloading it again. All right, and then when it hits 100%, it turns blue, and you get the little arrow pointing to the side for export. But let's go into export settings first, and make sure that we have our project going in the right place and we have our plugin. So if you've never used Bridge before, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you, let me go ahead and jump back over here. Make sure that you first have your plugin installed where your game is installed and the version of Unreal that you're using. I'm using 4.26, so this is in my Epic Games folder on my B drive, Epic Games, and then my 4.26, and yeah, it's in there twice for some reason. And then under Engine and Plugins. So if you just follow this directions right here, it'll hook you up and set you up just fine. And then down here is where your default project's located. You hit that folder. It's going to open up to where your project is located. You may have to find it inside of your folder. Mine is under my Unreal Engines. This is my landscape tutorial, and you're going to want to put it in your content folder. So make sure you get all the way into your content folder and then select folder. So with that done, now we're going to go ahead and we're ready to export. Okay, and it's going to export. If you get an error up here that it can't port to 13.429, sometimes you'll get that error when you first set this up. That's because the system, for whatever, set up your port in the wrong spot. So the way to fix that is go back here to edit, and then right here, the very top one for settings. This is different than export settings. So under settings, right down here, your API port, just type in 13429. This is the port that it needs to go to. So put the 1349 in there, 13429 in there, and you should be good to go. All right, now with that done, we're going to go ahead and I've already exported it. It's in my scene now twice. This is what's going to happen as it starts to export. You should be seeing it doing something. Now, it may not be doing it this fast if you're just downloading surfaces and textures, and it may not have this much activity going on, but with this one, because there's multiple textures or multiple models and textures with this particular model, with this particular scene, it may take a minute or two for it to actually download and get finished getting installed. So once that is done, oh, awesome. All right, so I guess I pushed a little too hard. So I'm going to go ahead and send and restart, open my scene up. So I'm going to pause for a second while that comes back up. That happens sometimes. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Crazy stuff. So one thing I want to point out while I'm looking at my scene here, we hadn't done anything about these lines out here. So a couple ways to make these lines go away. These are the grid lines that existed from the first creation of our scene. A couple ways to get rid of them again. You can build your light out. That's what it's telling me to do here. But this will take too long for right now. Another way is you can go into your light source and select your light source and make it movable. And when you do that, those lines go away. And because I had started to shape my water before removing those lines, I've got some weird thing happening down here where it's very square. I can come back and fix that later. I didn't really do much with that end of the lake anyway. All right, so about the light, that should be okay now. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here to my content folder, find where my mega scans are located, because I'm going to start with the grass first and show you the grass. I'm going to go into my 3D plants. So we have 3D assets, 3D plants, atlases, and surfaces because of some of the things I've worked on in some of these other projects in this tutorial. So the 3D plants are where we want to go. Here is the Thatching Grass that I just downloaded, and it may not have completely downloaded because it's not looking like I have any of the textures with it. All right, well then, instead of making you wait for me, I'm going to go ahead and just use the grass clumps. The grass clumps are already located here. You'll see that I have these 3 different choices of grass clumps right here. And then inside my foliage, I also have those same 3. You can drag either one of those in. They seem to work just fine, and it gets converted to this type of a mesh anyway inside of the tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to models. We're going to go to foliage now, or modes rather, sorry, modes, the little tool kit up there. Go to foliage, and I'm going to select these 3. Sometimes when you download them, so if the download had completed, it would already have successfully installed those for me, but it did not finish downloading. So, all right, so now with these, let's take a look at what we have here. This is the object. It's grayed out right now because it's not being set up to being painted into our scene. We also have 0 of these currently in our scene. These little numbers down here tell you how many we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of these and talk a little bit about the stuff down here to set it up. This is a foliage instance. The density is going to be 300 of these for one 1,000 by 1,000 unit area. Okay, so that's what this 1KUU stands for. We can set up a radius for that if we wanted to change it. What I like to do is I like to select scaling. I like to go from free. It's usually defaulted right here at uniform. Okay. And I like to select free. And this gives me access to all three of the scale factors for this, so X, Y, and Z. And then I like to give it a min. Right now I have it set at 0.5, and I leave the max at 1 usually, unless I'm wanting to make the object taller than it really is or bigger than it is. So I could actually increase this quite a bit. Then I don't really adjust the rest of this. It's already got a random yaw. So the yaw, basically when it puts it in, it's going to randomly turn it to different angles. So when it's being placed into your scene, so they don't all face the same direction. That's already by default turned on, so I'm going to leave that alone. And for the grass, because grass can grow in all different directions and kind of craziness, I just leave it at a 45-degree angle here for the max angle. And again, the rest of this. So collisions, if you have an object like a tree and you're going to set up collisions for your players to run so they can't run through the tree, you can add collision. Now for grass, because it's going to be at the ground level and there's so much of it, I usually leave the collision off and let so that it doesn't affect the movement of our character. Now the way to paint it is pretty simple. Go ahead and bump this back up again a little bit so we can move around a little faster. Come on. All right, so we get down close to our grounds, we can start to paint it. And I gotta actually turn it on, sorry. So you have to put the little check mark in there, and we can get our little bubble now. And this bubble is the same as before. We have the ability to adjust the size, the density. We can also adjust our eraser density. And then there's some additional settings in here that you can go into, and yeah, it's not really anything I'm gonna worry about. So as I start to paint, you can see that the grass starts to get laid down there. Oops, wrong direction. All right, and there we go. So I've got grass popping in. All right, so and right now I've got this set to do 300 in a 1000 by 1000 area, so I can move up the size of my circle and start to paint much larger areas. And you see that it starts to fill out the area pretty fast. Now there are 300, there are 3 different types of this grass. So what you can do is you can select all 3 of these at the same time, and then you can turn them on and turn them off together, just like that, easy enough. You can also adjust these settings at the same time. So right now it's set at 300. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave all the settings the same. I've already gone in and adjusted all these settings, but you can select as many objects as you want up here and get them to set all at the same time. So now I can just come in here and start painting my grass. And again, these are higher resolution, so keep in mind that the more of these you put in your scene, you may start to affect the performance of the rendering of your scene. And you can actually get to a point, at least I have, where you put in so many that yeah, it won't render your lights. You can play it in the scene here, but you can't render it out the scene. It just keeps crashing. So this is what the grass looks like. Pretty simple. You can just paint it. You can erase it the same way. So if I wanted to, I could come back in here, move the size down here. I can erase by holding the shift button, or I can select the eraser, and then I can just erase in large quantities. I could also turn off the ones I don't want to erase and just select the ones I do want to erase, or have the one I want to erase selected, and then come in here and erase and start to erase just those particular versions of the grass. So multiple ways to control and thin out your grass if you want to. Alright, so let's go ahead and get on to trees. I'm going to go ahead and jump out of this real quick, go back to my selection, go into my content, and find the folder that I've downloaded for my trees. and that would be my nature pack right here. And then inside meshes, you want to find your meshes, and this one says flora. And inside there, this nature pack has different types of trees. I have conifers, and then I have some additional trees. I'd actually have to see what these are. Not that I'm a tree expert, but they look like a leafy tree instead of a pine type tree. For this area, I'm just going to go ahead and use, and it's also got grass too. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my modes here, go back into my foliage. Guess I could have stayed in it. Uncheck that grass right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just select all these, because you can do that, and select them, drop them in here. Now they're in here, and I can go ahead and make some changes with them. So I'm going to select these trees first. And like I said, here it comes in with a default of 100 KUU for most of the things you throw in here. And if I paint those trees, you can see that, wow. I end up with a massive forest of these trees all right in one spot, and I still have those trees turned on as well. So that doesn't work out so well. We don't want to do that. So what we want to do is we want to make some adjustments, and I'm going to turn these off because I don't want those. Check the grass out later. All right, so with these three selected, I am going to come down here, and like I said, you can see there you go. It comes up with a forest all in one spot. We're going to make an adjustment to those. I'm going to put something more like 3 in there, and for a 1 KUU. You can play around with that. And again, with 3 of them, if I hit this, you can see that it's picked one of each of these, it looks like, or it's actually picked 2 of the same and then 1 of the third one. But although those 2 must look very identical, because it shows that I put 1 of each in there. And if I click again, the trees look very much identical. Even though there's 3 different ones, you can see that it's putting the same 3 in over and over again, and they are identical. So we're going to make some adjustment. I'm going to go away from uniform and select free. I'm going to try that again. Adjust these down to 0.5. And I'm also going to, well, let me demonstrate real quick. So with it at 45 degrees, so here's what we get now. We get this kind of variation. It's got all 3 in there, but it has selected a variation in the scale. And you can see that these trees are really leaning over pretty good. And I can actually paint them so that they're sticking out sideways right now out of the side of the mountain. So we're going to go down here, and we're going to select this max angle. And I'm going to leave it at 10 degrees. So max angle for 10 degrees. And now we're not going to get as many trees to grow, but they're only going to grow in areas that are 10 degrees or less. So I can't paint them on the side of the mountain anymore. And it may limit actually where I can plant trees, and that's fine. It helps me from making that mistake where I'm putting trees kind of in a spot that they're not really going to exist. Or it's not going to look right anyway. Now, in the real world, trees do grow out of some sides of mountains and things like that. But those trees usually adjust their growth so that they angle upwards. These trees aren't those. These trees don't automatically do that for you. They're just a straight tree. You're going to have to find a specific model to put in and then place those in, maybe individually, in order to get those to work. Or you can also paint them, and you can set up the way that they come out a little bit differently. You can also find some 3D scanned rocks and things like that, and you can import the rocks and you can paint those as part of this foliage tool as well. So you can come in and you can paint rocks. Again, be careful, those are again higher resolution, and if you get too crazy with the number of rocks in your scene, you're going to really potentially affect the way that your scene works. Really slow down your performance, especially as it tries to render. But this is the way you can put in your grass, put in your trees, and even add some water to your scene and create something that's pretty interesting. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. I think I've talked long enough. We're a little bit over 30 minutes, almost 35 minutes. So thanks for watching. I'm going to again ask you to visit Paul Fritz Animation, my YouTube channel. Like this video if you like it, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.